On a cold December night in 2025, an 18-year-old boy named Henry Novak was walking home from a night out in Southampton. He was a university student, just starting to figure out who he was and what his future might hold. Kind, thoughtful, much loved by his family and friends. The kind of young man whose absence leaves a hole that never quite closes. Henry was attacked, stabbed multiple times. In his final moments, terrified and bleeding out, he sought help. He told the police who arrived on the scene what had happened. He said it clearly, over and over. "I've been stabbed. I can't breathe. Call an ambulance." 9 times he told them that he couldn't breathe whilst he lay on the ground. But the man who had just attacked him had lied. He told the officers that Henry had racially abused him. And in those critical minutes, that story was believed. Henry was handcuffed as he fought for his life. The body cam footage, you've all seen it. It's harrowing. It's the kind of thing that stays with you and you lose sleep over. A young man in his final moments pleading for air, for help, whilst the system that's supposed to protect him treated him as the threat. Henry Novak died that night. His killer, Vikram Digwar, has been brought to justice and sentenced to life. But justice for Henry doesn't erase the pain for his family, and the family carries that every single day. It doesn't bring back a son, a brother, a friend whose life was stolen in an instant of senseless violence. We have to be able to hold more than one truth at once here. A young life was brutally taken. That is the first and worst tragedy. And then came the response, the hesitation, the misjudgment, the failure to see a dying boy for what he was. Those are separate failures, but they matter too. They matter to Henry's family, who have said the way that he was treated in his last moments was inhumane and degrading. They matter to every parent who wonders if their child would be believed if they were ever to be in trouble. This isn't about scoring points or feeding outrage. This is about a boy who didn't get to grow up. This is a family shattered and questions that deserve honest answers, not slogans, not deflection, but real reflection on how we protect the vulnerable when seconds count. Henry Novak was somebody's everything. Tonight we remember him as a person first, not a headline, not a symbol, just Henry, 18 years old, gone too soon. Please just take a breath with us. Let's talk about this with the seriousness and humanity that it demands.
With his final words, he told officers that he could not breathe. He told them he had been stabbed. In fact, Henry told officers that he could not breathe 9 times. He told them he had been stabbed 4 times. The response from one officer was, "I don't think you have, mate." The police have said they were misled by the murderer and that the scene when they arrived was complex. Unfortunately, it seems to us the truth is much simpler. The police were told by our son himself and by a member of the public who called 999 that they heard someone shout that they had been stabbed. But the police did not believe them. Henry was pulled across the gravel, his hands forced behind his back, and he was placed in handcuffs. Instead of being treated as a dying victim, police formally arrested Henry for assault and read him his rights. That was the last thing he heard. Henry did not die with dignity. He did not die with the care he deserved. he lost consciousness before anyone believed him. Let me be absolutely clear. We hold Vikram Digwa solely and 100% responsible for the brutal murder of our son. But Henry should not have died on the streets of Southampton in police custody. The way he was treated was inhumane and degrading. His murderer, however, was afforded decency. He was believed. He was not handcuffed when arrested. He was not handcuffed when transported to the police station. As far as we understand, he was never handcuffed at all. And, as Vikram Digwa himself told the court, whilst under arrest for Henry's murder, police even took him to the kitchen so he could choose his food. The contrast is unbearable.
Well, firstly, the response from Henry's father was quite extraordinary, with such dignity and obvious pride in his son, who, by all accounts, was a lovely young man. And your monologue there, Rogue, just really encapsulated everything I think the nation is feeling tonight, having seen the horrific scenes that we've seen in the last few hours. And of course, social media and all the front pages have run with this story, and rightly so, because this is a travesty. This should never have happened. Henry should never have died. And failures have been made, obviously. We know that one police officer has resigned. Apparently, the arresting officer has currently resigned. There have been much said about it today across Parliament, across mainstream media, alternative media. But Rogue, I want to say, I know that was quite emotional for you, opening that up. I could feel your emotion. Because as you rightly say, that could have been my son, your son, our daughter. Yeah. It could have been one of us. Yeah. The tragedy is, folks, that we are living in a two-tier policing society. And, you know, the government have failed to recognise that. This government and previous government. And in fact, we're going to bring our two wonderful guests on the show to discuss that with us tonight. It is the wonderful, sensational Jeff Taylor and Richard. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to see you both.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you too, guys.
How are you doing, guys? All right? I'm just messing.
Oh, yes.
There we go. Brilliant. So, obviously, I don't know if you caught the opening of Rogue's monologue there on Henry Novak, gentlemen. First of all, before we get into the meat of it, just some opening remarks from you guys.
Okay, do you want me to go first, Jeff? I'll go first, I suppose. Utterly heartbreaking, and I mean, as you rightly said, the dignity of Henry's father was absolutely, totally inspirational. We have to understand that this is a family that is going through the worst thing a family can possibly go through, and I really hope that they can find some peace in the next, well, in the upcoming months and years, because what's happened is unimaginable. The initial response is obviously going to be incredibly emotional. But obviously, everyone's upset. The nation is upset, but the nation is angry as well. The nation is furious.
Yeah.
We are a people right now, the people of the United Kingdom are trying their best to get their heads around this without doing something stupid.
Yeah.
Which is the easy option. Let's be honest. To do something stupid is the easy option right now. And we must refrain and pray that there's some kind of political leadership, somebody out there who can make sense of this, somebody out there who will understand the mood of the nation and act accordingly. Right now, Starmer's not doing this. We didn't expect him to. The Home Secretary, exactly the same. We don't expect any of these people on the left to act in the way that the nation would like.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. Jeff, sorry.
Jeff.
Yeah, this was a harrowing account, and I'm appalled at the response by the government and all the officials that are concerned. They don't seem to have any empathy at all with the situation. This is a political back-covering thing that they're going through at the moment, and it's just not good enough. I cannot begin to understand what that family is going through. It's not like this was an accident of some sort. And this is something that has been building for years. They built this into our society and into our whole establishment system. You only have to look at all the training these people go through to wonder why this hasn't happened earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm appalled at what's going on, and my heart goes out to that poor family.
Yeah.
What they must be going through is unbelievable. Yeah.
Yes, it's heart-wrenching, absolutely heart-wrenching. And, you know, when you have children yourself and we've seen the footage, you know, it just cripples you as a mother. I want to be able to help, you know, you want to do something and you just can't, you know, it's happening before you. And the police were there. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And then this is when the anger kicks in, isn't it? You know, it's like, hang on a minute, you know, that is somebody's child, that is somebody's brother, that is somebody's friend. And, you know, we're seeing this happen again and again, and enough is enough, really. It really, really is enough now.
Yeah, I think as well, gentlemen, I think what really got the public's anger is when Farage and many other political leaders were calling for the footage from the body cams of the officers to be released. Because we've seen situations in the past where that's not been the case, where footage has been withheld from the public, and that has caused a vacuum then of misinformation and lots of other things, Southport being a perfect example. But at this occasion, of course, this happened last year in December, and the trial obviously took place. Once that footage was released, there was a real sense, not just on social media, but even mainstream media, who were forced, their hand was forced to report this. They didn't want to cover this story like they did with George Floyd. MPs didn't want to talk about this. They took the knee for George Floyd, but didn't want to mention Henry's name, like Wayne Broadhurst and many others we could mention. And the footage is absolutely, I mean, it is horrific. When you hear what that young man says to the police officers, that he has been stabbed and he cannot breathe, yet they're more concerned about an allegation of racism than someone who's just been stabbed and left to bleed to death. Here is that camera footage right now.
My dad's holding it now.
He keeps dropping side to side, so I'm just trying to keep him set up.
Alright.
He's got a mouthful of blood, I don't want him.
He was on the bin on the other side of this gate.
He's jumped over these fences and stuff like that. And
Right.
he's up
Move
here.
away, mate.
He's obviously, he's fallen
Right.
from there and he slipped from there.
There's other shoes left over there, mate.
What's your name, mate? Huh? Has anyone been hurt other than him?
Yeah, me.
He's grabbed my brother, he's took my turban off, started grabbing my head.
Are you injured?
Yeah, I've got swollen eye, little bruises.
Alright, just step back a little bit for me. Someone flag these down.
Got this stud.
Right, let's get you out of there, shall we? Oh.
I was in bed asleep. When they just find me up there, look, someone's attacked me.
I can't breathe.
Grab his other arm.
So I've just gone running, we only live
Blood,
on
blood.
St Denny's Road.
Come
Running around the corner.
What's happened to you, alright?
This stud.
You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? Don't think you have, mate.
Look, that's what, and then I'm like, you've got mouthful of, I want to keep you up.
Hand?
I can't breathe.
Put the hand in the cuff, mate.
This is like
can't breathe.
times this has happened to us. We've been walking, we've parked, we live around the corner. Multiple times we've had people racist
90
attacks,
foot.
still nothing happens.
He's saying he's been stabbed, so
Where
let's
is it
just
you
check
think you've
him.
been stabbed? In the face? Oh no, but we have to check, don't we?
Right.
In the face?
Just get these to back off, get their details and that, and I'll keep hold of him.
Should we?
Right, keep you on your side, mate. You better retrieve then.
So, yeah.
Saying to him, I'm keeping him on his side. We were sat up when we had him here, but he didn't like it. What's your name, mate? At the moment you are under arrest, and that's for assault, so you do not have to say anything, may harm in defence. If you do not mention when questioned, it's up to which you later line of court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, alright? It's going to be sick, I think. I just want you to call it.
Yeah, we've got this male, he's just been beat up. Are we able to get an ambulance, please?
His pupils aren't even reacting.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of touch on something here. I actually put something out earlier about, this actually is the straw that's broke the camel's back. We have absolutely had enough. And a Sikh got in touch with me and he just said to me, look, based on his actions, he wasn't a real Sikh. But whether he is or not, I hope he gets a later death penalty. This is also why Sikhs carry a kirpan. We have a duty to help anybody. I'm saddened to hear what's happened, obviously, but I'm thankful that a Sikh, has interfered. This was for personal to me, but it says that in Sikh tradition, Sikhs are taught to stand up for and protect anyone facing oppression or injustice, even at personal risk. And this duty was strongly emphasised by Guru Gobind Singh, who also established the Khalsa in 1699 and required initiated Sikhs to carry arms for the defence of innocent and the vulnerable. But we haven't seen that here. And I just look at that and I just think, I understand, that you're going to have, some Christians that don't behave in a Christian manner. You have, sort of crazy Muslims that are going all out. But then this is something completely different.
I mean, first of all, I'm going to come to your point, Rogue, because you're right. The footage itself, it tells you the story that the reason why people in the country are angry. What happened in Southampton will come to later in the show, I'm sure. But quite clearly, the guy that murdered Henry, he had the audacity, when asked by a police officer, have you been injured? And his response, my turban's been ripped off and I got a small little cut on my eye. Fuck off. Fuck off. Simple as that. Right? He murdered him. Now, Sikhs have this ceremonial religious exemption that they can carry a knife. In fact, we've got a picture of this knife. Look at the size of these knives that these Sikhs are allowed to carry on our streets. And we have a huge epidemic of knife crime on our streets, not just in London, but stabbings have happened in Cardiff this week also. 2 young boys have been killed. And it is a tragedy to think that the police, their first duty should be to take care of anybody that's injured at the scene. Not a man that's accusing someone of calling him a Sikh Paki or whatever. I don't care what his name was. It's irrelevant. The allegation of racism in this situation was considered to be more serious than a guy that had just been stabbed and left to bleed out and die on the floor, guys.
Yeah, I would just say that, in my view, having seen that so many times now, the police did exactly what they were expected to do by the hierarchy. They were trained to do exactly that, to go wading in, take a side immediately based on ethnicity, and then act accordingly. And that's it. And this is where we're at. This has only taken us a few decades to just completely rip up the police playbook from years ago, treat everyone with suspicion, equal suspicion, to where we have a point where if you're of this ethnicity, you get preference. If you're of that one, you're at the bottom. And it's happening not just in the police force and in the police service, it's happening throughout our society. And it's just part of that.
Yeah, I totally agree, Jeff. Look, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, he should not have had a knife. I don't care who you are. It's one law for all of us, right? I don't care about culture. I'm sorry, I don't care. This is meant to be our culture. This is Great Britain. These are the laws. These are the rules. Stick by them. Oh, I'm sorry. What you're saying in terms of defending yourself based on your own culture, I'm sorry, this is the British culture. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Obey the law of this land or don't be here. And this is not a pop at the Sikh community at all, incidentally. But to carry knives around like that, if you can, I should say, let's take it the other way around, actually. If they can carry knives, why can't I carry a knife? I mean, I'm not suggesting people should carry knives. That's the point.
Yeah.
Not in Britain.
Do you remember a few years ago, there was an air stewardess working on an airline. She was wearing a crucifix, a cross, as a display of her personal faith. And she was told, please would you remove it because it's offensive to people, potentially offensive to other passengers on the plane. Now, of course, we know the cross, crucifixion on someone's neck is not a weapon, but she was told to remove it. But that was her way of ceremonially showing her personal faith. And yet we've allowed Shabana Mahmood today in Parliament, when she was challenged to get rid of the exemption, religious exemption for people carrying knives, irrespective of the religion, they shouldn't be carrying them. She turned it down. She said, no, it's part of their religion, and so I'm not going to bow the knee. Sorry for the phrase, but you know I'm going with this. Because it's part of their religious beliefs and practices. I'm sorry, but there should be a complete ban on any weapon carried by any person, whether they're religious or not. It's absolutely a dereliction of duty. And the police force have failed this family miserably. And we've heard from many politicians across the board this week as well. And even, as Jeff just mentioned there, the police force itself, Hampshire Police Force, they're culpable. I mean, they are partly responsible and those above them, as Jeff was pointed out, because that is how they've been trained. It's part of their action plan, Rogue.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, we have somebody who does train first responders, and he actually gave a little comment for us. So can you have Dave C on, please?
I just wanted to take a minute or so just to take a more medical perspective on what happened to that young lad, Henry, who was brutally stabbed. I work with police officers. I train them in first aid. I operate under the College of Police's guidelines for doing that through the first aid learning program. And I can tell you that response officers are taught at level 2, which is essentially work explicit emergency first aid. And they will have been taught how to manage a patient who is injured. Okay, they will be taught how to find and deal with catastrophic bleeding. They will be taught how to manage an obstructed airway. They will be taught how to identify patients who require basic life support. And they will be taught how to deal with other injuries from a first aid perspective. Now, plainly, some of those injuries that poor Henry suffered were life-threatening. And unfortunately, the actions of the police in this case, by not doing a proper assessment, breached their duty of care. And it also breached their requirement under the various public inquiries that have been carried out into people like Stephen Lawrence, Damilola Taylor, etc., that they did not do a proper medical assessment. And that medical assessment would have identified at the very minimum any catastrophic bleeding that they could have dealt with. And it would also have given them an idea that he had been stabbed and that he needed to be at a place where somebody could save his life. And that place is hospital. It's not probably on the streets. And their failure to investigate the claims that he had been stabbed, for me, is a catastrophic failure completely. And I'm afraid their training, either it's inadequate or it hasn't worked in this case, but the police have to take responsibility for this negligence, I can only call it. They have to take responsibility for it. And to be honest, that's really all I have to say on it.
Right.
So listening to that, I mean, we all know that they failed. I mean, what did you guys think of that?
Well, yeah, I'm former military, and I got trained quite extensively in all sorts of first aid techniques back in the day, how to resuscitate, how to check for major injuries and stuff like that. Because when you're on board a ship, you don't have anyone to turn to immediately because you've got in a battle you've got limited first aid availability anyway, and you have to be there quick. And also we're trained to intervene, if you were going along and something like that happened, an accident, that you could actually be productive by going in to assist people. So I can understand the police would get training in this, and I don't understand how they would have been so offhand. It's almost like they only think white people lie.
It feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really, really does. Richard?
Yeah. You do. To be honest, let's just cut to the chase in this one. I think that this has revealed to the entire nation the infection of woke. And that's the only way I can describe it throughout our society. This has just said, there you go, that's what happens. That is the ultimate end conclusion. The end result is this. That's what it looks like. That's what woke in practical application looks like. And that's why we're so upset, we were so angry. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't seen... I watched snippets, you see, of that cam footage. I thought, I can't do it. And watched it all then, just every little bit of it. Because I've watched it in sections, I didn't watch it all the way through. And watching it all the way through is... That boy, he was by himself, handcuffed, not believed, and that's the bit that I think is everyone has issue with. That's the bit everybody is finding incredibly difficult. It's just the sheer fact that he wasn't believed, and that's because of the training of the police force to match the beliefs of the day, we'll say, of our woke elite. And this is where it comes down to, is we have people at the top who've got a set of values that go completely against that, which are completely, as far as I'm concerned, satanic. And it feeds right the way down through society, right the way down to our emergency services and how they respond, the values they hold. They listen to a man because his one man's skin was darker than the other one. The boy, you could tell by his voice was weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that listening to the response of the chief constable that responded to it, actually, they put a tweet out. I don't know if you've seen this, guys, but the tweet was later deleted. And we're going to bring it up now, and Britain Brogan put this up. Our officers were misled at the scene, including denial of weapon use. They quickly switched to life-saving aid within minutes. But as laid out in our statement, the medical evidence shows that the injuries were not survivable. A very sad case. Our thoughts are with the family. And within minutes, they deleted that very tweet because they lied to the general public. This was an absolute dereliction of their duty as officers. They were there to protect Henry, not a guy that's been that accused him of being racist. When is that more of a crime than someone has been stabbed? He told them, he was stabbed 5 times. He told them 9 times he'd been stabbed. He told them he couldn't breathe. You can hear it in his voice.
Yeah. But then for them to lie and say that they gave sufficient help is an outrage, because we could have believed that. But then because we're then forcing for the footage, we've now got it. You can see that clearly did not happen. This is like, look, they lie and they lie and they lie. And we then just have this complete mistrust of everything above us, because we know, like Richard said, it is satanic. It is filtering through, and they are trying to impose these satanic rituals within us. And I just can't deal. I can't deal with it.
Well, Hampshire Police did release a statement, and we want to play that to show you guys the Chief Constable what he had to say about the whole incident. And it's just a shit apology. Just watch this.
I am deeply sorry that Henry could not be saved. I'm sorry that in the moments before he lost consciousness, he had been handcuffed and arrested. The facts heard in court should leave no doubt in anyone's mind who was lying to officers that night and why we didn't immediately understand what had happened. During the 999 call, when officers first arrived at the scene, and even when Henry's condition was deteriorating quickly, his killer continued to divert the blame, obstruct our inquiries, and never admit the serious harm which had been done.
That just doesn't work, guys, does it?
Disingenuous as fuck, sorry.
Yeah.
Doesn't work at all.
I mean, the Chief Constable Alexis Boone should be resigning or sacked, thrown out. But the other person that is directly involved is the Police and Crime Commissioner,
Yeah.
Donna Jones.
Yeah.
She writes the police and crime plan for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And she is a Tory. Where is the PCC in all of this? This much vaunted position that has, 90 to 100 grand a year to hold the Chief Constable to account. What's going on here? I just find the whole political system is failing us. These politicians are failing us. The civil service and all these officials like the Chief Constable are doing exactly the same thing. You see, when you fail, or when I fail, they can arrest you and lock you up.
Yeah.
When they fail, they can blame you and arrest you and lock you up.
Yeah. Exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
It's an upside down world, and I keep on saying this.
It is.
Richard?
I'm sorry. Tonight's a really difficult one. Because let's face it, the nation. The more I think about it, I've been spending today. I did a live stream myself today, and I was mulling things over in my mind. But the more I think about it, probably like everybody in this country, the more angry I get. And I looked last night at what happened down in Southampton with the protests, and people were kicking off. And lots of people are there going on there, oh, how disgusting. Oh, how awful they're reacting like that. How do you expect people to react? I'm not condoning their actions. But please understand the level of emotion that is in this country right now. I don't care about anything other than the safety of our women and children on the streets of this country. There comes a point where men, when they feel this emotion so much, when they feel that desperation. How do I protect? It's the immediate instinct of every man to protect his woman and his child. And if he can't do that, what are you expecting him to do? How are we meant to react? You know, I call for people to remain calm. I do call for that. At the same time, I understand if you're not feeling calm. Because how can this be rationalised? Really? How can this be downplayed?
Absolutely. Thank you, Claire,
Well,
Bear, for that.
can I-
And yes, R.I.P. Henry.
Yeah, one of the things that in society we're meant to do is we're meant to outsource our protection, aren't we? To the police, to the intelligence services, to the armed forces. That contract is being broken. And for someone to stand up in the House of Commons and say something like, there is no two-tier or no biased system, tell that to the Batley teacher.
Yeah.
Tell that to the poor little schoolboy who accidentally scuffed a religious book and was dragged in front of the police, the elders, and everybody, and it was photographed. And tell him.
Yeah.
Tell us after that. This is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beyond
Well, actually, in Parliament today, Nigel Farage raised that question and accused Keir Starmer of enabling two-tier policing. And we've got a little bit of that exchange that took place. And just listen to what Keir Starmer had to say.
The horrendous circumstances of Henry Novak's death, can I urge the Prime Minister to consider this? It is now clear to growing millions in this country that we're living under two-tier policing. The instructions that are given to police officers from police bosses are clear and written down in ink. It says you must treat different ethnic groups in different ways. That, apart from the upset and the anger at the circumstances of his death, the anger that you saw spilling out in Southampton last night, and which is in danger,
condemn the violence,
which is in danger of getting considerably worse if the public lose trust.
condemn it.
if the public lose trust in being treated fairly by the police, can he take some action, end this divisive practice of two-tier policing, and make sure that all British citizens are treated the same?
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe there's two-tier policing in this country. I'm really shocked that he pretends.
Wow, no two-tier policing in this country. Is he mad? Is the guy absolutely deluded beyond all reasonable? I mean, can you believe that?
Anything that comes out of his mouth, nobody believes anyway, right? We all know he's a liar. When he says one thing, he means another. So it's really that simple. Look, we just don't believe a word. And of course, there is two-tier Kia, and then his two-tier policies.
Everything, absolutely everything. But I was appalled by the number of MPs. You can hear him chuntering in the background, waving at Farage and saying to him, no, whoever had said what Farage has said, I agree with them. I agree with every single word he said. And we've had loads of MPs come out this week. Kemi Badenoch, leader of opposition's come out criticising Farage. I mean, they've all attacked. A lot of people have actually blamed Farage for the riots in Southampton. The reality is people are pissed off and angry, regardless of what politician says what, about what the police have failed to do in showing favouritism to the minority groups and a demographic in our society that gets preferential treatment because, as Jeff has said, they are trained differently. Hampshire's police, I think it's called their race action plan. That's what they call it, a race action plan. It's still on their website, for goodness sake. How they train officers to deal with cases of racism or alleged racism. It's an absolute disgrace. And I am so, forgive me, I know you're emotional. I'm angry, I am. I'm frothing at the mouth. I'm fucking angry. Because this kind of stuff really should not be happening. If this was a black man, it'll be international news and people will be bending the knee. We've seen it during George Floyd. Footballers, celebrities, MPs. I mean, everybody you can imagine bending the knee, taking the knee to a organisation that turns out to be fraudulent, a cult, where one of the founders, Talisha Dickerson, took $3.1 million of donations and lived in a mansion, luxury clothes and everything else. That bitch there, that's right, yeah. But yet, politicians, including Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner, in 10 Downing Street, in the flat, taking the knee, celebrating, or not celebrating, showing solidarity for a drug addict, a criminal who lost his life. Now, people say you can't compare the two. Hang on a minute. Yes, you can. Because they didn't want to say nothing about Henry, didn't want to mention it at all. But they were forced by the public, by the anger which was displayed this week in Southampton, which we'll come to a bit later. Sorry, guys, I'm ranting here, but I'm so angry at what's been happening. And we've had so many different responses as well, haven't we? I mean, even Rupert Lowe posted on X today the response, Rogue, and that was just going to come up on the screen there now, and so we can have a look at that.
Enough is enough. A deep line needs to be drawn in the sand. Talk is weak. Britain needs to say no more and mean it. A Restore Britain government with the British people's approval would put Vikram Digwa to death. Henry Novak was stabbed by Digwa 5 times, including twice in the back of his legs, once in the face, and a wound to the chest. Rather than calling an ambulance, Digwa filmed Henry. Digwa gave the knife to his mother, and it was found by police at their home along with more than 20 other weapons. Keeping this savage alive serves nobody. The police officers on the scene who allowed Henry to die will face criminal charges.
Yeah.
For gross negligence, manslaughter. Digwa's foreign family will be deported, laws will change, the country will change, everything has to change. Order will be restored, the law will be restored, Britain will once again be restored.
And Rupert put that out. We're just going to go through some of the responses, Rogue, of some of the elected officials that Jeff mentioned earlier. So here's Kemi Badenoch, and then we're going to get our next guest on.
Nigel Farage said today it should be white lives matter. Are you making the same point?
It should be everyone matters. It should be everyone matters. We should not make this about Nigel Farage. This is about Henry Novak. And I listened to his father, and it was absolutely heartbreaking. And this morning I watched that body cam footage, and I just kept thinking, what if that was my boy? That his last moments were spent in handcuffs. He knew he was dying, and he could see the confusion, his attacker claiming that he had been a racist. It's an awful, awful way for anyone to die. And I don't think anyone should, it doesn't matter whether it's politicians or the police or the public. The first place we need to start is what that boy had gone through and what his family is going through. That case shows that something has gone very horribly wrong with policing. And I think I know why. I think that in 2020, 2021, there was a response to the George Floyd murders that is overcorrected and caused a lot of problems. I put out a report.
Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Nigel Farage said today it should be White Lives Matter. Are you making the same point?
It should be everyone matters. It should be everyone matters.
Yeah. So that was Kemi Bain's response.
That, like, listen to her response. It's just like that same maternal response that I have. It's that emotional response, and I understand that the men are angry, and it's like how we channel that, isn't it?
It is, but certainly I agree. But I think also what Kemi Badenoch was getting at, I mean, this is what's pissing me off, is people using it as a political football, right? And I'm not pointing fingers at any political politicians here. But the truth is, when a politician calls this stuff out, they get attacked for it. You know, and you cannot have these things being done in broad daylight in front of the public's eye, with footage being released, and not a single MP wanting to talk about it in Parliament. No, it has to be discussed. It has to be brought to the forefront. And whether you like Farage or not, whether you dislike Rupert a lot, it doesn't matter which part. This isn't about politics. This isn't about party. As Richard was saying earlier, this is about our country and our culture. And we've allowed this to happen. We've allowed these people here and to practice their religion. And sorry, I don't believe in multiculturalism. It has been a complete failed project, in my opinion. It does not work. We've seen it time and time again. And this is going to continue unless someone puts an end to it, unless we get someone in power in 2029 that says we're not going to tolerate this anymore, we're not going to politicize the police force, it's going to do its job, which is to protect without fear or favour, and going to do what it says on the tin, and not show preferential treatment to minority groups because of the colour of their fucking skin. I don't care about the colour of anyone's skin. Everyone should be treated equally under the law.
Can I just point out that this has also affected our United Kingdom, in that the Scots carry the Sciron Dhu, small knife.
Yeah.
When they wear their Highland dress, they can wear a small knife down their prominent leg, down the sock.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they've done that for centuries, and it's still legal for them to do so when they're wearing their Highland dress. So this incident is now encroaching upon what was an acceptable thing.
Yeah.
But no one ever complained about it because nothing ever happened. But now people are asking questions, and if you want to treat everybody equally, what happens to that? You have to ask these questions. It's far-reaching, actually, more far-reaching than people realise.
Yeah, very good point. Richard?
Yeah. Should this be allowed to affect the Scots is the question. I think it should affect everyone. I'm sorry. Ceremonial lives, if you're just going to... Ceremonial. That's all it is. It's not a vital part of everyday life. And when we're living... that might have worked years ago, but we're living in a very different world today. Society and the values have changed, okay? And right now we have a country which is multicultural, a multi-identity... we have multiple identities as a country. That's the problem. We're not one specific country anymore. We are different factions, and we are different enclaves. And this is the balkanization of Britain. You have got no single monoculture anymore left. There is one. It's sort of sitting there in the background, and it is the Christian country, the Christian culture, which is the foundation of Britain. But when you allow secularism and anything goes and a complete relativistic moral set of values, then if you're going to do that, then have that right across the board, though, when it comes to not carrying knives. I'm sorry, we shouldn't be having these discussions even. I mean, even the fact that it was highlighted in Parliament, as you just showed earlier, the fact that people are policed differently and approached differently depending on their ethnicity. What?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Exactly.
Exactly that. And I think we were talking earlier this week to a good friend, when we about uniting the right, because politically what we need people to come together at times like this in solidarity, and to actually, to answer some of the questions, what can we do together, not fight one another at each other's throats politically, to ensure that our country is saved, because this is the last chance saloon, certainly for my generation. I know we're fighting for the next generation, Rogue.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this before, the right is fractured. And, the left have got it totally smooth, and it works, it's streamlined. We are fractured, and we need everybody to come together. And we've actually got Howard on now. So Howard Cox, if we can have you on, because you've actually done a poll, and we want to hear the results of your poll. So welcome, Howard.
Yes, good evening, Howard. Good evening.
Hello, everyone. There, it's an honour to be with your two illustrious other guests. So.
Yay!
Hi, Howard.
Hello. How you doing? Yeah.
So, fantastic.
The poll consisted of 6,184 respondents. It was open to anyone, and there was a few clowns in there who responded. It was quite funny, some of their responses. But put it bluntly, there is something, a huge amount. I haven't got the actual figures in front of me, but it's something like in the region of 80% want the right to come together. And it's interesting to see that when you actually look at their voting intentions, you can see that something like most of the Reform voters don't want the right to come together. And that's an interesting little observation. But you probably know today that Advance UK is now is going to be delisted as a political party. I've had nearly 2 to 3 meetings in the last week with the college, and I'm getting a bit of an echo. Sorry, is that?
No, you're fine.
I can't hear anything. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's something like 3 meetings had with the college members, and it was a complete majority agreed that we've lost our momentum. We lost that momentum after our wonderful annual conference we had in February. A week later, Rupert actually set up or converted his movement into a political party, and that took the whole wind out of the sails. And I know you, Richie and Rogue, you go back a long way with me from the beginning of Advance UK. I feel quite relieved in many respects by what's happened. It was inevitable; it had to happen. But the poll made this point: out of the over 6,000 people, the majority of people are sick to death with the fragmented right, and they wanted Rupert and Ben to come together. They wanted Rupert, Ben, and Nick Tenconi to come together. It's not just there, and even there was a little hint of David Curtin in there as well. And unfortunately, not many people wanted the Tories and Reform to be part of that coming together on the right. So that there's a lot of, it's complete and utter mess in that respect. But I think with Advance UK actually becoming the adult in the relationship on the right and dropping out and tacitly supporting Restore to going forward, I really can't support Reform, even though if there was an election tomorrow, I've said to you before, I would vote Reform. I would do. But in terms of the long term, I suspect Restore, and I think potentially Restore and, basically Rupert and Ben will come together. But when you see some of their people today, I mean, there's one, Steve Laws, did you see his tweet today?
Yeah, not very helpful at all, is it? I mean, no. and not only that as well, the response to the tweet as well, if that was the case then Henry Novak would have been deported.
Exactly.
I mean, ridiculous. This remigration is an extreme policy because it needs finer detail. How far back do you actually go? I mean, I'm sure my great-great-great-grandfather was German. I'm sure he was. I got a bit of German in me somewhere, or Jew, because I didn't sneeze there. No producers were there because I got a Jewish nose. You know, so where are you going to deport me to? Where am I going to go? You know what I mean?
Well,
I mean, Jeff.
Yeah, but Richie, my wife was born in Kenya. She was to two expats from Yorkshire. They're taking it into a literal state, and that's Rupert asked me to join Restore. When he set it up. But I said not until these, basically racists are removed around you, because I can't handle that.
So are you going across now? What's your plans?
Well, I'm still fighting Fair Fuel UK, the motorists. I'm still doing that. But as you probably heard, Ben's, we are Advance are actually going to be joining up with probably GB Pack, Claire Bulliver.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
She is. She's a good girl. She did wonders with the Chagos Islands, and she's done things behind the scenes that people don't know what she's done. And she's got about 130,000 people. I think they're all free. They belong as members. They don't pay anything. Advance UK still has got 38,000. The combination of the two. But what we're going to do is continue generating policies and trying to influence the right side of politics, the centre-right side of politics. And, as someone said in the college yesterday, before we announced today, we're going into hibernation. And I personally am quite happy to remain independent for a bit. I'm not really joining anyone. I've been asked by the Tories to join them recently, but again, it's to do with...
If you join the Tories, you won't come on this show ever again.
He's going to join the Tories.
Too right. You will be deplatformed immediately.
I think you know what my answer was.
Yeah.
So everything's in flux now at the moment. There's a lot of people shocked. I've had my inbox has been flooded with people saying, what do I advise them to do? I'm afraid at the moment it's their choice. To be fair, Restore and Advance are probably closely aligned, and we are with Reform. So in terms of various things, it's just, again, and the biggest thing that was actually holding people's attention to the fact that it was so fragmented in the right is because of egos.
Exactly.
And people wouldn't give up control. I personally like to see David Curtin and Nick Tenconi, do the same thing and all come together.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we can't do that. And unfortunately, if we don't come together on the right, I'm afraid you're going to see a lot more of Labour and the Greens.
Yeah, definitely. Jeff, how would it look, though, if everybody from the right came together? It just feels a little bit complicated for my brain. I'm like, how would that actually sort of, fit?
Yeah, right. Who's going to be in charge? Is the first question. And then the next question is who's going to be in charge? Yeah. Then the third question is who's going to be in charge? Exactly. And then when we've fought our way through all of that and found out that the membership have moved on and joined the local knitting club instead because it's a bit more peaceful. I don't know. It's going to take a bit of a shock. That's what it's going to take, a shock. When it dawns on people that unless we come together, we're going to have more Henry Novaks.
Yeah,
true.
Well,
yes, and it's going to get worse.
Well, obviously they're obviously saying that Nigel Farage is inciting more because he's come out to say, this is the beginning now. What happened in Southampton last night, and I didn't quite catch one of you said it. The anger out there is so palpable now. It's beyond belief in terms of the anger. And I've got it inside of me. I wouldn't go out there and I wouldn't throw bricks at police. I wouldn't do things like that. But I would definitely what made me most angry is watching our Prime Minister today at PMQs, watching him, absolutely deny there's two-tier policing and watching all those people who are elected, the majority of those people in that house don't believe there's two-tier policing or don't want to believe. There's a slight difference in that emphasis. And so, when you look at it, I'm not a great fan of Nigel Farage, even though he's an ex-good friend of mine. And obviously, as you know, I stood as London Mayor and I stood down in Dover last year in the general election, or 2 years ago in the general election. But what he said today, standing there, it was I felt embarrassed by the rest of those MPs not giving him a fair point and putting out there. All he said, will you consider Mr. Starmer, Sir Keir Starmer, whatever the prat's name is, he said, why don't you consider the fact there is two-tier policing? There's two-tier justice. Everything about our country is being wrecked by the fact that the elite and the establishment is destroying all our lives for personal benefit. It's not helping anyone else. It's not helping Mr. and Mrs. Joe Bloggs or anyone in our country anymore. And I am frustrated as hell. I'm thinking of just chucking it all in, really. I've had enough too, but then I'm thinking, I get so angry, I can't walk away.
Yeah. I know, we feel that. We understand that.
When you get angry, you just do a podcast, don't you? That's what you do. You just come on. Jeff does it all the time with Richard. They just come on. Right, it's Richard, we got this to sort out. We got to sort the country out. Let's do a podcast. Come on, let's do it, guys.
Well,
Richard.
It's the way we feel with it.
It's interesting you say that, because I've been asked if I would do a political motoring podcast. And bear in mind there are 37 million motorists in this country. If they all paid a nice super sort of whatever you call it, a super chat pound each, 37 million of them.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't
it? You could be the new Jeremy Clarkson of the YouTube world. That's what you could be on motoring. There we go. They're looking for a replacement.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to say, though, just to pick up on what you said earlier, Rogue, and very much in line with what you said as well, Howard. Why can't the right unite? It's because I think Restore would unite a lot of the right, to be honest. I think it has the potential to do it. But there's a problem. As you rightly pointed out, there are people on the periphery of Restore who are, let's just say, and I'm talking about certain prominent campaigners for Restore who are not officially part of Restore, incidentally. They are party members, I believe, and they are prominent campaigners, but they are not part of the official team, we'll say.
Yeah.
And they are, let's just say, bordering on what I would call serious racist. I mean, it is what it is. It's like most people I know who vote Restore are not racist. For everything I see in terms of policy coming from Restore, that's not racist. I don't think Rupert's racist. His son has just married a woman of Middle Eastern extraction. I mean, what are these people expecting Rupert Lowe to do? What, to throw his own daughter-in-law and future potential grandchildren out of the country as well?
Yeah.
The whole thing is utter nonsense. But I do believe that Rupert does need to address these points.
Yes.
And that's just... I speak to so many people saying we're all ready to jump over to Restore. Now, here's the question which I am wondering why he hasn't addressed it. Is he being... he is, I believe, being ill-advised by persons around him, some young men around him. Some of them are very intelligent young men, but they're in an ecosystem of influences, I will say, that where Steve Law sits on one end of the spectrum and they sit on the other, but they all sort of sit around the same sort of table, and it's a little bit, I don't know, there's a bit of a bad taste in my mouth with the whole thing, and that's why I won't jump over to Restore and put myself fully behind them. At the same time, I have to say, who is doing more for this country as an MP right now other than Rupert Lowe? Nobody is. And that's the sad thing. You've got a man who's doing some incredible things for this country. Some incredible things. I mean, who else is there?
Well, there's always the Raving Loony Party. I mean, they've got a great manifesto pledge that they're going to put GP receptionists on the cliff of Dover so no fucker gets in. I mean, I think that's a great policy in their manifesto. Forgive me for the language there, Jeff. But yeah, you're right. I think it's a political fantasy to think that everyone's going to drop their egos and come together. It's not going to happen.
I'd love it to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because how good would that be? I mean, there is more power when everybody unites, and that is what we need, especially on the right, because like you said, we don't want to see any more Henry Novaks.
Rogue, and that's the serious point. In that poll, virtually everyone wanted, like you, like me, wants the right to come together. But when you ask a question, do you think, will it happen? The whole poll reverses. No one believes it can happen. And for the reasons we said, they won't want to give up their own personal leadership or their power. And that all is built around their egos.
Yeah.
The only person, I mean, I know you fell out with Advance UK, and I understand that, Richie and Rogue, and that's all what happened. But I think you'll agree that Ben is probably one of the most honest politicians around. From my point of view, I also think Rupert's an honest politician, and I agree totally with Richie.
Hang on, Howard. Did you just say honest and politician in the same sentence? Am I hearing right here, Noah?
Yeah, I must admit, I must rephrase that. I'm close to Ben. I'm close to Rupert.
Yeah.
Both of them, and they're both bloody good people, and they both want the country first.
Yeah.
I'm totally convinced of that from them. And Richard quite rightly pointed out. I mean, I was talking to Kevin O'Sullivan today, not on the radio, but privately by WhatsApp. And he asked me a question about what's happening regarding advance, etc. And he came up and I said, look, have you seen Steve Law's tweet today? And the Steve Law tweet basically, he's basically said if Ben had joins Restore, he's going to leave Restore. He's going to resign his membership. And, that's just basically racist. Because, Ben is half Pakistani. He's always said these things. And Rupert should have called that out.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I'm, just like Richard said, I'm not going over to Restore, but I would join Restore if those racists were definitely thrown out.
So, Jeff, let's just play this out then. Let's say the Unite doesn't write, based on how it's polling, right? What are we looking at? What are your projections or predictions? I mean, I've got my own. I put them out on social media, what I think is going to happen. What are your projections then? Into 2029, general election coming up, with Restore on the rise, Reform with the momentum currently winding their sails. I mean, how could you see this going?
Well, that's the $64 question, really, isn't it? How is this going to pan out? I don't think we're going to get to 2029, even if Burnham gets in. I think he's going to come up against a big stopping block, which is, where's the money? Already we're hearing stories that Labour are running out of money and they're running around trying to find new people to tax. So if they come after you very shortly, then you know exactly where we're going. They've run out of money. They've run out of other people. As Maggie Thatcher said, what did she say? They always run out of other people's money. And they're already casting around. They're looking at the national debt is going to start creeping up again. They're going to be going, we've got to cut back on benefits. And all the Labour MPs are going to say, over my dead, whatever. And it's not going to happen. So I don't think we can afford to get to 2029. The whole country is going to fall apart well before then. And it's how long they hang on for, which is the real problem for me. Where Restore and Reform are concerned, Reform has been stalling recently in the polls a bit, and they seem to have recovered a little bit recently. But Restore are really sort of steaming along. Now, the big thing I have is that political pollsters are allowed to do polls for other people during these periods, during election periods. That means that the Tories, all the other political parties and newspapers will all be commissioning polls from the pollsters. Where are the results?
Yeah.
Why? I looked for a poll, and the only one I can find is that Survation poll from Times. Survation from the Times.
Yeah,
and it keeps
and
being
I was
quoted.
just under 400 people. I mean, then you had Nadeem Zahawi. Nadeem Zahawi, I mean, wasn't he one of the founders of YouGov poll? I mean, so they're all politicised anyway. It depends how you ask the questions, the demographics you ask, the amount of people you ask. So we know we can't trust the polls. We get that. But if you look from the perspective of the public, who are the people that matter, because it's those who go to the ballot box that matters the most on polling day when it comes to any by-election or next generation or snap election. How well known is Reform and Farage as opposed to Restore and Rupert Lowe? Now, I've heard a lot of people online say Rupert is very well known. Let's remind ourselves there's only 24% of people in the UK that are on X. So you're right there, Howard. You're at a moment.
Do you want to go and have a glass of water, darling?
Or a glass of wine or something? Are you all right?
Well, I just finished the wine. I apologise.
Oh, that's probably what it is. I mean, the indigestion. But I mean, look. I mean, my like Jeff, my
Jeff's
predictions.
got his water.
Jeff's got he's prepared.
He'll sip it, and then Howard should feel the benefit.
My predictions are: I don't care if Restore are in power or Reform are in power. I don't care. I just want Labour out, and I want a centre-right party to be in government. They're not going to be perfect. Rupert Lowe is not the saviour. Nigel Farage is not going to be the saviour. But they can't do any worse than bloody Labour. Let's be frank about that. I mean, we don't want any liberal, left-wing, progressive, pearl-clutching, purple-head I was going to say nose piercing then, but you've got a
I have
beautiful
got
one.
one.
Yeah, but and you're far right apparently. You're far right thug actually, and you
Yeah,
apparently.
that's
So
what I heard, yeah.
you know, ultimately we want them out. So I think my thoughts were today, as I was speaking to you earlier, Rogue, that, you know, we'll have, I think Farage is set to win the next general election, if we get that far as Jeff says, in my opinion. I think that Restore Britain will win seats, not enough to form a government. I think that Reform will be just shy of a majority, and they will rely then, of course, on Restore. And there has to be a working partnership. I mean, that's how I read the political tea leaves. I might be wrong, but that's my opinion. I mean, where do you stand on it, Richard? Where do you think things could go?
I think that Restore has got the potential, as we know they have the potential to pull people, the disaffected voters, in that Farage probably can't pull. Farage's pull is going to be from the centre, even potentially from the left as well. We have just seen how sensitive that Reform are potentially to Andy Burnham winning, you see, because there's a greater crossover than we initially thought. What was it, Jeff, the other day? YouGov poll came out and said that there's an equal amount of union supporters within Reform as there are within the Labour Party. Okay, so you can see that there's a big crossover there politically. We know that Reform has pulled voters over from Labour. So I think Reform are basically going to be pulling from the centre, potentially from the left and the centre-right. They're just trying to pull as many people together as possible. And that's it, from the centre, what we call the broader centre ground. Whereas Rupert Lowe is pulling, obviously, further from the right. And maybe that's why he's not disavowing people like Steve Laws at this point in time. However, his actions do... I think Rupert's actions are starting to speak volumes. I mean, again, with his son, that's quite clear that I don't think he's on that racist spectrum at all. Which is the one problem that Restore has at the moment is public perception of them. Now, I'm not saying, as I said, I'm not saying that Rupert or the party itself, in terms of the inner workings, are particularly racist. What I'm saying is there are people on the periphery who are known to be racist and are quite proud and loud and open about it. And they are not actually... These people have attached themselves to Restore, and this is the problem. But that will pull people in from disaffected voters who are harder in their beliefs. So what could happen? Well, you could, because currently I'm not entirely sure that the right, if they did unite, would be able to match the voting bloc on the left in terms of coalitions. The only person who could potentially do that is Rupert Lowe because of his pull further to the right, which is the uncomfortable elephant in the room, I think. I don't know. It's not something we really want to think about, and it makes you wonder if that's the reason why he hasn't disavowed them at this point. And I have to emphasise, at this point.
Yeah. Howard, can I ask you a question?
Can I just add that
go on, Jeff, sorry, go on.
It's Makerfield is going to make or break the whole thing.
Yeah.
The Makerfield is going to tell us the first indication of where the voter wants this country to go. And if there is a large vote for Reform and for Restore, then you could see that being a bit of a catalyst towards, hey, we've got to get together. I'm not sure how that would work, but have you seen Dan Hodges' tweets or his ex-posts?
Yeah.
He is hinting that Restore has got a much bigger support in Makerfield than people realise. And a lot of people are saying, oh, yeah, you're a lefty, you just don't want to see Reform win, so you want people to vote for Restore to split the vote, all that sort of thing. But it does sort of ring true to me. It does. Because he said that a lot of the canvassers for all the parties are seeing a bigger support for Restore than they ever thought. I don't know. It's just something that I add into the discussion.
Can I just mention one thing a second? So that one comment, if Rupert is not on the racist spectrum, why even mention Steve Laws? That's a very good point, actually, because this is the issue that Restore have right now, is that because in the minds of many people, Steve Laws is attached to Restore, and he isn't. But that's in the perception of people, and that's come across thoroughly through the way that the press have been covering this. They've been just attaching against. They have been also or should I say, interpreting the attachment of Steve Laws to Restore as a functional part of Restore itself, and that's not a good look for Restore. And that's why I think look, at the end of the day, this is the important thing. We have to mention these things. I think. We have to mention that Steve Laws is attached to Restore, because we have to identify hazards where we see hazards. We can't just sit back and say there aren't, there's no issues going on here at all. It's all hunky dory, when it's not. And right now, we're so late in the day and late in the game. We want a party to come together. So we want the right to unite and come together. We want to see Restore do well and be a very good and healthy political party that represents the wishes and the beliefs of the British people. But it's difficult when you've got people dragging the party down. Sorry, I had to jump in.
It's fine. It's fine.
Point.
I think we're off to Makerfield to do our own journalism next week, Rogue, aren't we? We're going up there to speak with residents of Makerfield, because what I'm finding is we're getting a lot of political commentary from a lot of people on social media who don't actually bloody live in Makerfield, right? So the best thing to do is to go and meet the people. We know this. When it comes to politics, it's about grassroots. It's about the people. And that's what politicians forget. So we're going to go up there next week and do some of our own canvassing. Well, not canvassing. To ask the residents who it is they're voting for, if anybody, because we've got friends within Restore, within Reform, within Advance, formerly Advance. We've got friends in all political parties, Rogue, and we speak to them privately and publicly as well. And I think Jeff is right. Makerfield is going to be a benchmark to give us a template of what we potentially could see playing out in the big general election. And I think that will either wake Reform up and realise, hey, listen, there's another player in town here, or it might go the other way, that the canvassers that are collecting the data, Restore canvassers, are out there saying 37%, that was one of the figures I've seen branded about, that they're up there with Reform. If that is not the case, then it might be a wake-up call for Restore as well. There's a lot to play for in this by-election, so it's not just about Andy Burnham losing it or winning it, because there's no such thing as a safe Labour seat anymore in the country. We know that from recent elections. But I honestly believe that what we're seeing in Makerfield right now, and I agree with you, Jeff, it is going to be almost a template of what we're going to see coming up in the next general election.
And Paul Thorpe has said, keep Burnham out at all costs.
I got slated for this. This is why I said, and I'm sorry if you're a Restore supporter on our show, I'm not with any political party. I think they shouldn't stand in Makerfield. It's my opinion, right? It's a democracy. They can stand where they want. My opinion is, let Reform have a go at it to keep Andy out, because Andy Burnham will be a much better Prime Minister than Keir Starmer. He's much better debated than Nigel Farage. He's far more, he's
more personable. I was looking at his tweets.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
And then come to a general election, it'll be a much harder task, because Andy Burnham, mark my words, will win back all the red wall voters that have crumbled. He will win them all back. He's got that persuasiveness about him. He'll gather them together. He'll rally the troops and say, right, Labour is back on the map. We're fighting the next general election. And we don't want that to happen. So that's why I said what I said, Rogue, about Restore standing up there. If they take a certain percentage, they were at 7% on that Times. It was a small poll of less than 400. Forget that poll. The poll that matters on the day of the election. But if they take, let's say, 17 to 24% of the vote share in that area, potentially causing Reform to lose that by-election to Labour, they're hence giving Andy Burnham the seat, then he becomes the next leader, because we know where this is going, but we know he's part of the Fabian Society as well, it's all been prescripted. Then he becomes the next Prime Minister, and then the right is going to have one hell of a fight on its hands. And we've enabled it to happen. That's why I said what I said.
Spot on.
Thank you, Paul. Hope you're doing well, mate. Yeah, what's this one here? A Blairite, Brownite, Corbynite and Fabonite walk into a bar. The barman says, what are you drinking? Mr. Burnham. Yeah, I mean, that's my only concern. And I lost followers. I've lost, people who used to say, Richard, you've lost the plot and all. Listen, it is just an opinion. I could be wrong, right? I'm not right all the time. In fact, I'm wrong most of the time. I keep getting reminded about that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But, okay, so Buffon said here, I disagree, Richie. Burnham will collapse the country before the next election should he become leader.
I just don't think he will. I think he'll gather the troops, and I don't like Andy Burnham. Let me get it straight. I don't support Andy Burnham
And like
at all.
Paul Thor said, get him out.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
Franklin's
he
sake,
covered up the rape gangs in Manchester. Remember,
yeah, with Bev Craig.
Absolutely.
And I did a big thing on Bev Craig.
Yeah.
She's not a very nice person either.
And don't forget, Andy Burnham, if he does become leader of the Labour Party, he will get the Greens back, the Green vote.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, the Greens are split because they can't stand Starmer. And so, he's going to have a powerful base. And I just get sick to death of the fact that so many people are not going to vote, because of apathy. We know that. This is our country. I've said to you before on this show, I'd love to have the Australian system. I would like to have compulsory voting. You can just say none of the above, or you can rip your paper up. I don't care. But I just want to get so many people I talk to are really pissed off with what's happening. I say, you can vote. Yeah. Say, well, I didn't bother to vote. I say, well, I'm sorry, you've got no right to actually complain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Kim just said they're bullshit, Richie. There won't be another Labour government. I hope so, love. I really bloody hope so. It's the last thing we want, another Labour government.
Burnham is toxic to the electorate as Starmer. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm speaking to, look, if you speak to Labour supporters and their membership, they've done internal polling, right? And the Labour supporters and Labour members, more important, because they get to decide. First Labour MPs, then it goes to the membership of the executive. They like Andy Burnham. I can't stand the guy. He'll do worse than, but just as bad as Keir Starmer, that's debatable. But I just think he will be able to repair a lot of the broken wall, the red wall that's been damaged, and it becomes a greater threat then going into the next election. And we don't want that. Nobody wants the next Labour government. I certainly don't.
Don't forget, there's one little thing. If he does get to the stage of becoming an MP in Makerfield, has to be a Labour leadership election. And there's Ed Miliband and there's Wes Streeting. And they won't sit down on their hands. They will fight. And who knows who will come up on the outside rail to actually take over. You never know. All we need to know is, can the right beat a Labour government? And that's the big issue. That's the big question. And at the moment, we've got no chance.
No, I agree. No.
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate on this one. Something I've been doing a lot of recently, whether I've liked it or not. And I do have to ask, how much of those disaffected voters can be brought in by Restore? Could they surprise us? What I'm finding very strange is that they're so confident. There seems to be so much confidence when they were putting that candidate forward for Makerfield. I mean, is this some kind of arrogance, or is there something that they know that we don't know? Either way, to be honest with you, the other side of this, which has to be acknowledged, is if they fail in Makerfield, I think that's it for Restore. This will be their Gaunton and Denton moment, for,
it depends on what you define as failure. If they come third with 20%, that's not a failure.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so sure, because I think the failure here would be, I don't think the electorate, or the right rather, would be that forgiving of Restore if they actually handed this over to Andy Burnham. So as far as I'm concerned, this would really set Restore back a hell of a lot. So I don't know what's going on. People have said, who would you vote for, Richard, in this scenario? And I go, this is a difficult one. If I was in Makerfield, I'd probably go, all right, gun against my head, definitely not gun against my head. It would be Reform, okay? Just for look, there are other by-elections that are going to come out between now and 2029. Why this one? Why did it have to be the one going up against Andy Burnham? Why couldn't there be some kind of unification? Why couldn't even Rupert Lowe have supported the Reform candidate? Just for this one instance. And with that, hey, look, who knows what could have happened then if Andy Burnham was kicked out. But on the opposite side of the fence, if they do take Makerfield, then all of a sudden they've just launched themselves to the stratosphere.
There is absolutely no chance that Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage will ever sit on the same table.
No.
There's no chance. They hate each other they tried to put Rupert in jail. All these sorts of things. They accuse he had dementia. There's so many things. I've had a serious chat with Rupert, and also lunch with Andrew Bridgen, the three of us. We had a good meeting about this thing. And I tell you what, the vitriol towards Nigel Farage from those two is phenomenal. There's no way those particular guys, and Andrew Brisbane's a talented guy. He's now with Restore. I think what's going to happen is, my prediction for Makerfield is Labour will win, Reform second, Restore third. It's as simple as that. I can't see any other way. And I'm afraid we're going to have Andy Burnham as Prime Minister, and he's already ruled out a snap election if he gets that. So we've got them certainly to 2028.
Jeff, what do you think about Charlie Sampson's response? He's saying this is utterly ridiculous. You're asking for the true right to support a falsehood.
Oh, Charlie.
What does he mean by a falsehood? The true right?
Yeah, maybe we can get him on to discuss
who's
that.
True right? Who's true right?
Yeah.
I'd like to know. I'd like to know. Charlie, what do you mean? Can you answer that?
Yeah, I think it was midway through the conversation. I missed the loop to it, but yeah. Jeff, I mean, you've been doing this for quite a while now. I mean, we've all been around political parties. We all see what happens. Yeah. I think going to Howard's point, we'll come back to Charlie in a second. Going back to Howard's point, when Rupert Lowe was interviewed by Dan Wootton, he specifically said, when Dan Wootton asked him the question, would you ever work with Farage? And his answer was, there is no way in heaven, or I'm putting it in his context, there's no way I'd work with that man. First of all, he tried to put me in jail. And secondly, he claimed I had dementia. Why on earth would I ever work with a man? So Rupert has ruled that completely out. And I can't see, I mean, for the sake of the country, should he? I mean, people have their opinions. But he has made it categorically clear that he'll never work with Nigel Farage. What's Charlie saying there?
He's saying, it's as I said on the last show, that you're going to get a lefty slag either way. I love Charlie.
I'll have to get you back on soon, mate.
Oh, Charlie, you need to get your ass back on. Oh, Lordy.
Lefty slag, yes.
Look, but Charlie has actually highlighted something very important here. And in his previous point, when it regards to the true right, there are so many concepts of what the true right is right now. Okay, the true right. In many respects, I do see how Restore can be perceived as the true right, because Farage is playing for the centre ground. Look at the Tories he's pulled into the party. You get an idea of where that political party is situated. It's not what you would call on the right, really on the right, okay? It's just more right than we've had for a long time. So that I can sort of see the point that Charlie's making. And this goes back to, again, what you said earlier, Rogue, about why the right can't unite. Because nobody's got an actual full definition of what the right is anymore. Everyone's sort of playing around with this. And nobody's prepared, well, I suppose Reform are not prepared to admit that they're occupying the actual centre ground at the moment. That's the other side of it. It's a complex one. It is complex.
Yeah.
Well, traditionally, the right was all about more economics, wasn't it, in this country, with a little smattering of racism at one end. And then when the left came in, they spent everybody's money, and then the idea was that the Tories got back in and saved the money up so that Labour could then spend it later. And we sort of got into that rhythm. And as I said, with a bit of smattering on both sides, actually, of racism, whether it be anti-Semitism or whatever. But now I think that a lot of people are saying the true right, it's not about economics, it's all about ethnicity. And I have a bit of a problem with that.
Yeah. Speaking of ethnicity, and coming to the last segment of the show, guys, obviously with Henry Novak, what's happened there is raised questions, and people are drawing comparisons with George Floyd and what's happened to Henry. We were discussing this week about Black Lives Matter, a movement that was born out of the death of George Floyd, who overdosed, by the way. And I wonder whether or not we've missed something here, because we saw all politicians virtue signalling during his death. But yet with Henry, there was silence, the hand was forced and everything else. Even the Speaker of the House had to force Keir Starmer, or at least Shabana Mahmood, to make a statement to Parliament, right? Otherwise, nothing would have been said. So Black Lives Matter, we had a movement that was birthed because the guy was black, right? That's simply the fact. We had footballers taking the knees. Yeah. We had politicians taking the knee. Yeah. We had, so many people. I wonder, the World Cup is coming up, guys. On the 11th of June, the World Cup kicks off. I wonder, will footballers be taking the knee in solidarity for Henry
Novak? Doubt it very much.
Exactly.
No. They won't be allowed.
And a policeman was asked at that event last night to take the knee for Henry Novak. Didn't.
Yeah,
the police were. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't happen. I think FIFA, the governing body of the football, they won't allow that. They'll fine people for doing things like that. I think maybe there may be some token attempt, for wearing black armbands for him or something like that by the English players. Who knows? But I doubt it whatsoever.
Yeah.
But then comes the outrage, because we are so frustrated, because we absolutely want to be heard, and we want, for this to come out at protests. This is then what happens next.
Yeah.
The protests start to happen. People are showing their outrage, and we're not being listened to. So let's have a look at the protest from yesterday, and we can just talk about that afterwards.
I've been pushed. I've been pushed up the stairs.
People are kicking off about not being able to come up the steps here. Police is shoving them down there. This is shocking. Absolutely shocking behaviour here. Look at all these people, look.
Well, there we go, guys. Obviously, those were scenes from Southampton yesterday, and no doubt they'll continue. Do I advocate violence? So there's no violence there, but I did witness, I know 11 police officers were injured, according to reports from the police. I understand as well that a protester was booted in the head quite nastily
There was about
while he was
5
being
police
restrained.
officers, and they were all booting him in the head.
But do you know, I believe it's not something I want to see in the streets. I'm not an advocate for violence. I believe in peaceful protest. But unfortunately, we've had a spineless government.
Yeah.
We've had a police force that's been politicised, and we've not had a prime minister who's got a grip of what's going on in the country. And as a result of that, these scenes are going to be more commonplace, more than you will ever know. And it's happening not just in Southampton, it's happening all across the country. And it's only going to get worse. And that is why we need a snap election. We need a general election. This Labour government needs to go.
Yeah, I was at that event last night, live streaming, and I stayed for about an hour, or maybe a bit longer. But at the end, just when they finished the speeches and they were trying to get Tommy out of the way, out through the crowd, it was then that the crowd were getting very, very irate with the police. You could feel the anger in the crowd. It was at that point I thought, so I bowed out, being a sensible old man. You could sort of feel it. It was the total disregard for anybody's feelings that the police had, and it was the cold, offhand sort of manner. Let's go back to the Police and Crime Commissioner. Where's the speech from them to calm the Hampshire down and the Isle of Wight down? Where's all the grand stuff that politicians should be doing? Where is this all? It's not. It's all cold. There's no empathy there. It's all politicking, on the left especially. And when the right people like us feel angry, they say you're not allowed to feel angry. We were angry over Black Lives Matter and George Floyd. We're allowed to do that because that's justified. But you being angry is not justified.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
And that's where people... And then we're told to be, don't look back in anger, and all the usual rubbish that comes out. And I'm sorry, that those days are over. This gaslighting nudge unit stuff is over. It's over. They've got to wake up and start treating everybody like grown-ups that have brains and can see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, our time's almost up. I'm not going to say goodbye because I'm terrible at it. But we are going to do. Rogue's going to do it because she's much kinder. But don't go anywhere, because the rest of our viewers, please stay with us, because we got a special item we want to share with you before we end the show tonight. So, Rogue, over to you.
So I want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you. You have delivered exactly what we expected from you, which is articulate and helpful. So thank you all for joining us and being part of tonight.
Yeah. And don't forget to check out Howard's website, Fair Fuel, as coming up on the screen in just a few moments. Jeff Taylor as well, you all know Jeff and Richard, they do a brilliant combo of YouTubers. You know Jeff, all of you. Please subscribe, follow, like and share his channel as well. We appreciate it. And
Charlie Sampson says, a great panel. So
Yeah.
if he gives a seal of approval,
Yeah.
then we know it's good.
Yeah, I can't believe he said that and he's not on there. I mean, yeah.
I know, yeah.
We'll have to get him on. We'll have to get him on, Charlie. We love Charlie to bits. We really do.
You
Thank
need
you,
to come
guys.
on
Have a
next
great
time.
evening.
Thank you, guys.
God bless. Well, that's great. Fantastic. What a great show. I enjoyed that. It was difficult because it was quite
Emotive.
The-
There was
the
a lot of
tone, yeah.
emotion. There was a lot of like pain, and I'm still kind of shaking with rage and the emotion part of it because, you know, as a mother, again, that question is, how would I feel if that was my son?
Yeah.
How would I feel?
Absolutely. If we can take that Fair Fuel off now, please, producer Liam. We've got a producer in the corner over there. We've got a producer.
Liam.
Yeah. It's not Liam Tufts. He's not downgraded. You're all right. It's our friend. Thank you everyone that's watched tonight. Stayed with us, tuned in, subscribe to the channel, and follow us on all social media platforms. Really appreciate you. Now,
I just want to quickly say, actually, thank you so much to Claire Bear and to Victoria for the super chats.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Love,
so much
big love,
for
big love.
that.
Appreciate that. You may have known earlier this week on our Sunday night show or Sunday. Oh no, we did it earlier. I can't remember when it
We
was.
did it on the
Monday
yeah.
night show. We shared with you an incredible story of a couple. One of which is Chris, who has severe Parkinson's. Now we've met this couple, and they've become dear friends. And we put something together. We wanted to show you because we want to help to raise funds for Chris. Because the NHS, like many places, unfortunately, is so broken, and in his situation, he's unable to get a scooter, a mobility scooter. So we have decided on the Richie and Rogue show Unfiltered to do something. It's quite a benevolent thing to do, and we want to raise the funds, which is £1,500, to purchase a mobility scooter for him. So just check this out.
Hi, we're Richie and Rogue.
And we'd love you to get behind supporting this gentleman called Chris.
Take a look. When were you diagnosed and how did you feel when you were diagnosed with Parkinson's?
A bit gutted because my mum died of Parkinson's. So when I found out I had it, I was more worried about my wife. But it's affected, it was little things it affected at first, but then mainly me walking. So I didn't have any balance. It's affected a lot. My memory's a bit sketchy. I have to either walk with my wife. I don't go out on my own.
Yeah, of course. In fear of falling over or, by the very fact that you can't.
Yeah. I'm either in my wheelchair, I have to use a walking stick to get from the wheelchair to the side of the stable. But it feels like I don't have any independence at all.
I am just with Chris's wife, Esther. How difficult is this to get out of the car?
It is very light. Getting out of the car is not the problem. The problem is pushing Chris around, because this chair is, in general speaking, very easy to put together. But when somebody sits on it, that's when it changes.
I mean, there's no assisted help with this. It's not
No.
electronic at all.
No.
You're having to push this all yourself.
Yes.
And like you said, there are lots of hills.
Yeah.
The most important thing here, isn't it, Esther, is that Chris needs and wants his own independence.
Yeah, it will make me feel better because I know that he gets what he needs. I just want him to have a little bit back of what he's losing.
How do you think then that this will help you? What will it do for you if we actually reach the target?
It'll give me a massive amount of freedom. I'll be able to go for a ride out on my own round the block and get some fresh air instead of having to have Esther push me in a wheelchair, and to be able to have that freedom that I can do it. Whereas at the moment, I just can't, I don't go anywhere.
Let's hope that we can get our viewers to support Chris and help Chris and our endeavours in trying to get him a mobility scooter.
Oh, hang on. I've gone to the wrong... So Andy, actually, who's a regular viewer and one of our good friends, he said that he was lucky because the British Legion supplied him with a mobility scooter, and they actually truly are lifesavers.
Brilliant.
Well, here in Wales, we are struggling because we are just hitting again and again like a time frame. So for somebody to get a wheelchair, there's about a 1.5 year waiting list to get a wheelchair. So Esther, as you saw, who is quite tearful, is actually injured herself. And because she has her own injury, it's really, really important that we can help Chris. Now, if each and every one of us can put £1 in and we can actually all help him have his independence, then I promise you, we will do a video and you will see the smile on his face and you will see him being able to get out and about and it relieving Esther of her pain and actually the injury that she's suffered.
And just to say, we'll be posting it later on our X account as well, myself, Rogue Unfiltered, and myself as well. And also to say as well, thank you to those who've already given. We've raised £530 already. We're nearly there, right? We're not halfway there, but we've raised £530 in the last 3 days. So please...
And the target's 1,500.
1,500, yeah. And then obviously we'll report back and let you know. In fact, if you go to the crowdfunder page on that website, it gives you the fuller details. It actually takes you to the website of the exact scooter that we're looking to purchase for them, which will suit his needs and give him that independence that he needs so much.
Amazing.
Well, Rob, I think that's it, right?
I think we are done.
We're going to finish on the weather?
Yeah.
With who?
Fishy Mike.
Here's the weather with Fishy Mike.
Good evening, Britain. Here's your completely bloody ridiculous forecast for the days ahead, with me, Fishy Mike. Across much of the UK tonight, we'll see cloud, showers, and the continued collapse of any hope that summer might arrive before Christmas. Temperatures will remain mild, which is meteorologists speak for not quite miserable enough to complain properly. Tomorrow, Scotland can expect rain, wind, and the sort of grey skies usually reserved for dystopian films. Northern England gets showers drifting through, while the Midlands and Wales enjoy a thrilling game called Is That Sunshine or Just a Brighter Cloud? Heading into Friday, some brighter spells will develop across southern parts of the country. Naturally, the weather will notice people enjoying themselves and immediately send a shower through to sort that out. The weekend brings a familiar national favourite, clouds. Lots of the bastards. There'll be sunny intervals here and there, appearing briefly before disappearing like a competent government minister. Scattered showers remain likely, particularly in western areas, accompanied by breezy conditions that will turn every umbrella into an expensive kite. Temperatures generally sit between 15 and 20 degrees, meaning half the country will be in shorts, while the other half will be wearing winter coats and questioning the first half's sanity. So, in summary, some sun, some rain, some wind, some cloud. The weather equivalent of a pub landlord saying, "Yeah, we've got a bit of everything." That's all from the Weather Centre. If you're planning a barbecue this weekend, you're a brave bastard. Back to the studio.